So I got an interesting one here. Question is, why do so many immigrants get so much hate from Canadians in Canada?
It's a loaded question.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
I don't know why they get so much hate. Because the people that hate the immigrants today were immigrants themselves at one point. I remember my grandfather telling me. So it comes in flux, right? We're in a time now, we can say it. There's lots of Indian immigrants, South Asian immigrants coming over. And people hate that. They see they're taking their jobs.
Yeah.
They think they're running the place because there's so much of them.
Yeah.
But at the time when it was like in the 80s to 90s, there are a lot of Caribbean immigrants.
Yep.
And they were getting a lot of hate the same way.
Yeah.
That they were taking a lot of factory jobs.
Yeah.
All the jobs were going to them. And they were getting the same hate.
Absolutely.
And it's just a different cycle, right? There was not much Indians at that time, but they're receiving the same hate. But I guess seems it's more magnified because of social media, I think.
Definitely.
Right now. And most of these people who complain are the same people that are lining up at the Tim Hortons line.
Mm-hmm.
That if you hate going to Tim Hortons, you're complaining about everything. Why don't you work at Tim Hortons? Like, why are you supporting Tim Hortons? If you think they're hiring, why are you supporting Walmart if you think you're hiring all of these folks? Look, man, they came here for a better life just like you did. At some point in time, Canada's a line of immigrants. Mm-hmm. Originally, we're like the Irish, the Italians, and then it came down to whatever. People look down on immigrants. It doesn't matter what period it is. And they always think they're taking away their jobs. They're not taking away their jobs. They're willing to work harder than you. They're the one actually funding the economy because you complain about taxes and things like that. When's the last time you saw an immigrant complain about taxes? No. You see other people complain about taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You need them if they're gonna come and be supporting businesses. If they're going on Niagara Falls, they're supporting it because if you don't go, Niagara Falls, or for example, will close down. But someone else is going there. So what's the difference between their money versus your money?
That's true.
I feel the hate is just because they're Indian, unfortunately. But at different time periods, they could be anyone.
That's true.
That's my opinion on it. I think the hate is unjustified for, and all these idiots should be the one, okay, if you don't like it, do something about it. Go and work. Don't tell people that you deserve better.
Definitely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. The other thing with it, though, is I think the government is part of the problem. So the reason that people are hating on immigrants is because of what the government put. They put the immigrants in a bad position.
Yeah.
Because yes, I think you have to take care of who's here to make sure that you can bring in more.
Yes.
And no one's saying that don't bring in immigrants.
Yes.
Problem is, I saw a stat. I think it's for 2023 in the city of Toronto. 60,000 new houses were built, and it was something like 120,000 immigrants were there. So there's not enough housing for people. So it's a bad rap, yes, but the Trudeau government didn't put those people in a position to not get that bad rap. And then some of them are coming here and they're not getting opportunities either because they can't find a job.
Yeah.
And then they're actually wanting to go back.
Yeah.
So it's just a bad situation for people who are Canadian, can't find a job, seeing so many people, so they blame them unnecessarily, maybe unfairly. But and then even for the immigrants, they're here and they're like, this is not a better life.
Yeah.
Like, there's not anywhere for me to live. They're like, what am I doing here? So I think the government has a lot to play in what they put out there.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do they get unfairly blamed?
Yeah, they do. I agree with Sammy's point of view regarding the government to be blamed because there is not enough housing for our newcomers to Canada, immigrants. And it put them in a very tough situation because it's like, instead of living comfortably, some people have to live on the streets. Some people have to live at shelter. some people, it's very sad and unfortunate.
Yeah.
Gotta take care of your own before
Yes.
you bring in others.
Definitely.
Yes. Definitely.
But I think something that's being missed in all of this is the monopoly of how so many areas of our country is profiting and businesses are profiting off of immigrants coming here. So, for example, international students.
Right.
Colleges and universities are rubbing their hands every single day knowing that they have X amount of, international students coming to Canada. Well, first, in order for them to come, they need approval from the Canadian government, which obviously there are fees that they have to pay for applying for study permit. Boom. Then they apply for the college and university. Domestic students are charged one price per semester or however it's worked out versus international students are charged double.
Crazy.
So if a domestic student is charged $4,000 per semester, the international students charge $8,000 per semester. So at that point, you already have the government profiting off of all the fees that these newcomers are paying, for their application, their visa, this and that. You have the colleges that are now profiting off of the international students paying so much for their tuition. Now, how about the greediness of all these investors that are literally taking 3-bedroom homes, turning them to like 8 bedrooms, and then stuffing 20 international students in there, charging $500 a head, right? Yes, we are in a housing crisis, but however, people are trying to look at this from a greedy standpoint, and it goes up from the government all the way down to the investors and everyone else that plays a part into this. I think for the government, what they've done a poor job in not regulating the amount of newcomers coming here, whether they're on a study permit, whether on a work permit. Yes, we are a melting pot, so we do need immigrants here. We need people from Asia, from Europe, from North America, Australia. We're a melting pot, so we're always going to be immersed in multiculturalism, which is a large part due to immigration. But at the same time, I do believe, though, that the government has failed to regulate the amount. So right now, for example, there's a shortage of family doctors. Our healthcare system is in a disaster.
Yeah.
Why aren't we allowing or accepting more international students that are going to be studying nursing or studying to become a doctor in med school? We don't need, sorry to say, but we don't. One of the quickest and easiest courses that a lot of international students are studying is like business, international business, business administration. We don't need more of that. We need nurses. We need doctors. We need PSWs. So cap the amount of immigrants that are, cap the amount of international students that are applying for other courses, and not only allow, but regulate and put a priority to students that are going to be studying nursing or studying to become a doctor. So at least that way, once they graduate, we can immerse them into a struggling industry, which is our healthcare.
Or then pay attention to the amount that you're bringing. Because
Exactly,
if we have a shortage of doctors or shortage of nurses, we know it's going to take time for them to go through to become a doctor. Or some of them may not even stay in this country.
That's true.
So we have to be very mindful of the amount we bring in. Because now, with our healthcare system, that means every person is going to take that much longer to see a doctor, that much longer to get those tests that need to be done.
Yes.
So we're killing our healthcare system, and we're not doing it in a right way. So I don't know if it's bringing them in fast so they can get to citizenship where they can get votes. Like, it's so political.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't know what the reasoning behind it is.
Yes.
But another thing that I think gives them a bad name, and it's not necessarily their fault, but it could be sometimes as well. We have so many, it's mostly the government, but we have so many people in such like condensed areas that people are struggling, and the crime rate has risen drastically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think as a country, we're very, very soft when it comes to law. So I don't care if you're naturalized, born in Canada, if you're immigrant. When you commit a crime, if you're not a Canadian citizen, you need to go back.
Yes.
100%.
If you commit a crime and you are a Canadian citizen, we need to keep you there, so locked up. So you're not, because look at all these stolen cars. these people are arrested like 3-4 times, and then they're just let go. There's like a slap on the wrist.
Yes.
I seen a guy as an example. So again, it's not necessarily just immigrants. I don't care who commits the crime. So if it's an immigrant, maybe send them back because that's not the person that's doing anything productive to society. If it's a Canadian citizen, lock them up. Like, don't just slap them on the wrist. So I seen a guy that was 4 times lifetime ban for drinking and driving. Mm-hmm. How do you get banned lifetime 4 times? What happened after the first time? Like, there was 2, 3, and 4. So I don't know if I talked about this on the pod before, but that's, to me, that doesn't make any sense. No. When do you be tougher on that? Is it when we see effect? Remember in Vaughan, when that guy, Marco Muzzo, he came back, he's drunk, he killed the whole family. So do we draw the line when you kill somebody, or are we cracking down on the behaviors? So like I said, if we're overpopulated now, we need to crack down because crime is at an all-time high. Yes. I don't care if you're Canadian, I don't care where you're from. If you're not from here and you're committing crimes, you shouldn't even be here. And if you're Canadian, you should be locked up.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
I think too, like the hate. One thing I agree with you all, but the one thing I would get back is the hate. Yeah. Because every time, and I think this is Western society's problem. Mm-hmm. Every time there's an entitlement thing. Every time there's a problem, we blame immigrants. H1N1 virus. Yeah. Chinese, we blame them. Coronavirus, Chinese. Yeah. They get hate. They get, like, for what? Yeah. They're here, they've been all their life, and they get spit on, they get beat up. Yeah. Like, overpopulation, we blame the immigrants. We blame the Indians or whatever like that. It's a Western society thing that they feel that they're entitled because they think they're living in the land of opportunity. Yes. Mm-hmm. And we don't necessarily want to open. But they don't get the fact that back in the day, everyone from Europe came to Canada. Yeah. Yes. We took over the native people. Yes. Yes. Right? Italians. Yes. We make fun of Brampton. But that's where they feel comfortable living. That's fine because most of them are there. Yeah. But where do Italians live? Don't they have their own section? Why don't we make fun of them at the same time? Right? We don't say, "Oh, you live in Woodbridge. That's little Italy." Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Yes. But we go to Brampton, we say, "Oh, that's little India." Yeah. Yes. It's like it's hate everywhere, and it's the Western society today. Always when there's a problem, we look to blame people who actually want to come here and try to get a better life, which you actually did. If not you did it, your parents tried to do it.
That's why I say it really matters with the crime. Yeah. Because when people see on the news, you know, crime rising and these things,
they first ask, is he brown?
Right. They're going to blame.
So that has nothing to do with it.
That's why I say if we could actually crack down and fix those things, you wouldn't see as much blame. But we've put it at a spot, and it's the government's fault. Yes. It's not, for sure. And I don't think they care if people are turning against each other. No. You know, that's the problem. No. So they kind of like just close an eye to it, and they're like, "Oh, let them figure it out." But then it becomes all that hatred. Yeah. But they created it because there's too many people living in certain areas. Mm-hmm. You know, if we're bringing a certain amount of people over, no problem. Yeah. But we have a large country. All of us can't fit in Toronto. No. You know what I mean? So we got to figure out how we're bringing people over, and they're not doing that. They're just like, "You guys figure it out." And what's happening is no one's figuring it out because more and more people come. Crime goes up. Like I said, it's crime on both sides. Yeah. But it's going to be a blame game. You know, immigrants will be like, "It's not us. Look, it's this guy." And they're going to look at it. "It's not us. It's you." Like, you know what I mean? So it's wrong, but it's the government causing us to fight amongst each other, really.
Yeah. No, it's true. And Jace, you kind of mentioned it earlier about, you know, someone going to Tim Hortons, right? You know, it's funny where you hear a lot of people complaining and saying, "Oh, well, it's only immigrants that are working in fast food." But let me ask you this. Do you guys know of any young 16, 17-year-olds that want to work at McDonald's, Tim Hortons, Pizza?
No. That's where you got to start, right?
Right. They don't want to do that. Yeah. So you can't fault the immigrants for coming here and stepping in where people don't want to step in. Yeah. "Oh, they're taking jobs from our kids." Well, why don't you ask your kids? Are they willing to go work minimum wage at McDonald's? Yeah. Houses need to be built. Right. you're complaining about, a truck driver for Amazon, but your package needs to be delivered.
Right.
So at the end of the day, you have to put your own personal beliefs to the side and look at just the bigger picture.
I bet you if all of a sudden there was a Indian construction company that start building thousands of houses, people would still complain, even though it fulfills a need.
Houses.
But they're saying now they're taking over this job, they're building what they want, but it's actually solving a problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Because there will be.
But you know what though? Speaking of that, I was watching this kind of construction video, right? So you had the construction workers are doing the manual labor, but the engineers that were coming and testing the concrete was the immigrant.
Right.
And you could see it, and it was just to show you like a different point of view of how people look at construction workers, right? Everyone that's doing the manual labor, they're the ones that's sweating. And then when they see the engineer come, who may not speak the best English, but has the credentials and qualifications to, do what he's needed to do on that site. Everyone's standing there looking at him, and you could already kind of picture what they're already saying in their head, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day is, regardless of who's in that position, a job needs to get done. So you always just got to put your own personal beliefs to the side and just look at the bigger picture.
Love Kinks.